You like the hidden story with what I told you before?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Please, please.
All right.
We'll show it to you. What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here in beautiful Saint Blaise, a lovely medieval town here in Switzerland, to meet my buddy Jean-Marie Schaller, the owner and CEO of Louis Moinet. Let's go check out what he's up to. What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with an extraordinary gentleman, Jean-Marie Schaller. He is the owner and CEO of Louis Moinet. How are you, sir?
Hello, Wei. Welcome to Saint Blaise.
Thank you very much. I have to say, I find Saint Blaise incredibly charming. But what I find most charming is, of course, the incredible history that you have with the chronograph watch. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Louis Moinet is the creator of not only the first chronograph, but also the first high-frequency stopwatch. Am I correct, sir?
You are very right, actually. And it's very unique because the same watch has received 2 Guinness World Records for being the first ever chronograph and the first ever high-frequency timepiece.
You know, Louis Moinet was this extraordinary gentleman in that he was an astronomer, he was a watchmaker, he was even a sculptor, if I'm not mistaken. And this incredible timepiece, le Compteur de Tierces, right, a 60th of a second chronograph, was actually something he made for himself to help him with his astronomical observations. Is that correct?
That's right, that's right.
How remarkable. And this watch somehow became for sale during a Christie's auction in May 14th of 2012, and it came into your possession. Can you tell me a little bit about that story?
Yes, it was absolutely amazing because, as you can imagine, I restarted the second chapter of Louis Moinet I had a sense it was a call of destiny. Louis Moinet was looking for me, I was not looking for him. So one day I decided to restart a company from a blank sheet of paper. And then I looked for historical evidence of what he achieved in his time. And I read in his book that he made a Compteur de Tierces, as you said. And Compteur de Tierces is measuring the 60th of a second, but I had no idea how it would look like. And at a speed of 216,000 vibrations an hour. So I was very much interested in the first ever high-frequency timepiece, not knowing it would be the first chronograph as well.
Right.
And that Monday morning, it was auctioned for a ridiculous starting price at Christie's in Geneva. Because nobody saw the importance of this piece. So it started with 5,000 Swiss francs, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. And I woke up and I had this incredible experience of somebody whispering in my ear, 50,000. And I said, what is this? I turned around, I thought it was my wife. She was still sleeping. So it was from where it came from, I cannot tell you. It never happened in my life.
So you were in the auction room in the Four Seasons on May 14th on 2012 as the auction was happening. And that morning, you had a premonition, a voice had whispered to you that the price would be 50,000.
That's exactly right.
That's incredible.
And I set my limit at 50,000. And then there was a fierce battle with a very important name from Geneva. I learned after, thank God, who it was, because I would not have dared fight with them. But finally, I waved up my little panel for 50,000 and I won it.
That's amazing. You're too much of a gentleman to explain who the other party was, and I won't divulge it either, but they have probably the most important museum for watches on the planet. Can we agree on that?
Yes, you can say that.
And I think the fact that they were bidding on this watch shows the significance of this timepiece as well, as the world's first chronograph and as the world's first high-frequency stopwatch as well. But you won it, correct?
Yes, you are very right to say that. Then we came here in Saint Blaise and we started to play with it and we said, it's a chronograph. And then we said we will keep our mouths shut until we make the full analysis of what it is, not to make any mistakes, not to claim something that would have been wrong. And on the 21st of March, a year after, we called for a press conference at the observatory here in Neuchâtel, and we said history has to be rewritten. For a watch lover, you know, it is something out of this world to have lived this experience.
So you now have certification from Guinness that this is in fact the world's first chronograph, and it's also the world's first high-frequency stopwatch.
Yes, there are 2 Guinness World Records.
Amazing. What I really like about this watch is the iconography of it as well, right? You've got these 2 counters, one for the 60-minute counter, and then you've got one for the continuous seconds, and then you've got a 24-hour counter at the base of the watch as well, and this massive hand that reads 1/60th of a second. But this begins to give you an idea for an all-new chronograph to celebrate the 200th anniversary of this incredible watch. Am I right, sir?
For us, you have to imagine, I started from a blank sheet of paper. I was alone in my house, and then gathering historical facts, bringing some friends in the business, hiring people. We really started from something very, very small. And today we are an independent company, and it gave us a soul. It gave us strength to have won this Champions League, you know. And since that day, of course, we feel very confident about the direction we must follow.
Okay, so let's talk about the watch that was created to celebrate this incredible 200th anniversary. It's called the Memoris, and it's a chronograph that I think is kind of a contemporary icon because it takes all of the chronograph train, right? The column wheel, all the levers, the reset hammers, the chronograph seconds wheel, and it puts it all on the front of the watch. And then you have kind of the dial at the same level as the movement, and I think it's really cool. Tell me about how you created this watch.
We created this watch because we wanted it to be very different, and we wanted it to be a chronograph before being a watch.
Right.
So you read the time actually on a very small counter at 6 o'clock. All the rest is the chronograph itself. And it's the only chronograph that really shows when you interact with the pusher. It's a mono pusher like Louis Moinet did 200 years ago. It shows you all the levers, all the movements of the different parts that engage and that give life to the measure of the chronograph.
That's amazing. You know, I think probably my favorite detail here is, you know, you've got the running seconds wheel here, and then that's driving the clutch wheel. And when you see this lateral clutch engage with the chronograph wheel and it starts to turn, I mean, it's just so cool to look at. And it's just wonderful to be able to have this entire mechanism on the front of the watch.
Yes, it's a real show.
So when you launched the Memoris, it was initially 46 mm in diameter, but I think you also saw where the world was headed in terms of wanting to have super wearable complications. And you took it upon yourself with the creation of the Memoris Spirit to diminish the size down to 40.7 mm, which is an incredible undertaking actually. And the result is a watch that I have on my wrist, and I think it's just incredibly wearable, ergonomic, comfortable, and still has all of the dazzling sort of like display that you have come to expect from a Memoris. Tell me about the adventure and the challenge of diminishing the size from 46 mm to 40.7.
It was a long battle.
I can only imagine.
We decided more than 2 years ago to reduce the size to 40 millimeter. And from the technicians, the answer was always the same. No, 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 we cannot do it. And to use traditional way of craftsmanship, we would never have achieved this goal because the movement is too broad for a 40 millimeter case. We had to think differently. And actually the solution came from this domed glass. This domed glass, it occupies a large proportion of the surface of the watch.
It's almost like half of the watch, right?
Absolutely. And you have the bottom, which is either in gold or in titanium. And it's like a framework, like a chassis, as we say in French. And also it gives, because it is unusual, it gives a new vision of the watch itself, because the movement is like suspended in the air, and you have on the outside you have a bezel which is triangular.
Right.
So in some cases we use it for two time indication, two measures for the chronograph.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, like we have the time to race.
Right.
It gives you the tachymeter, the speed
right.
of the car, and the 60-second chronograph.
At the same time, because you have this faceted, like a rehaut that sits around the dial. That's really cool. I mean, from an architectural perspective, as you say, it feels like it's almost floating in space. I have to say, now that I've been playing with it quite a lot, actually, the tactile feeling of the start, stop, and reset mechanism is phenomenal. Like it just feels effortless to do all of those functions and put the watch through its paces. But you mentioned the time to race, and let's talk about that as well, because that's this incredible watch here. And you know, constructed, as you say, with the encase almost half in this dome sapphire crystal. And then you've got a titanium, grade 5 polished and brushed titanium mid-case integrated with the lugs, which, if I'm not mistaken, is only 18 grams. Am I correct, sir? And the entire result is a watch that takes the movement of the Memoris, but creates a much more sporty and, let's say, even slightly more aggressive in a race car way dimension. Tell me about this watch.
The watch is as you described it, and it has something which is very different. It's not a limited edition, it's a series of unique items. So basically, you have a choice of 3 colors. You have here the green racing.
The British racing green.
Yes, British racing green.
Right.
You have the Italian red, and you have a French blue.
Rosa Corsa.
Rosa Corsa.
Rosa, let me say that with an Italian accent. Rosa Corsa.
Bravo.
And then the Bleu de France.
Bleu de France.
Okay.
Why? Because these 3 countries were at the origin of motor racing.
Right.
Then came Germany.
Ah, yes. With the silver, right?
Yes, with the silver. And so we wanted to pay an homage to these 3 countries and using these 3 colors, not only for the rubber strap, but only for the inside of the watch. But what makes it very unique is the number you have at 6 o'clock.
Right.
And you can choose your lucky number, should it be 1 or 2 digits. So if you decide to take this watch with number 3 in a British green racing,
Right.
it will be yours and nobody else in the world. And actually, it has been our biggest success after its introduction at Watches and Wonders. It has really had a very good reception, and it shows that, you know, nobody really needs a watch. Let's face it.
Sure.
We as craftsmen, we must express a different emotion, and this is a perfect example. Because every piece being unique, people, they don't wear a Louis Moinet watch, they wear their own watch, made for them. It's a wise watch.
Jean-Marie, are all the numbers already taken? I mean, are there still numbers left for people?
There are still some numbers left, but of course the good numbers, they were sold immediately.
Right.
And sometimes there are still good numbers to have, but few, I must say.
That's fantastic. Now, Jean-Marie, we have a light here. Do you mind if I ignite all the luminescent indications on this watch? Oh wow, that's really cool, actually.
Mr. Hyde has come to life.
Indeed. But it's remarkable how precise they were able to integrate the luminous indications, because some of these indications are tiny, and the printing, or I don't know technically how they did it, but the precision of the indications is remarkable.
Believe me, it was not easy.
Right.
And also the association of the colors. You see here, you have a mix of blue and green,
Wow,
which
that's
gives
really cool.
different dimension to the watch.
That's really cool. And it's cool also because you know, it's funny, the only indications that are not loomed are the hour and minutes, because it's almost like that's not the focus of the watch. The focus of the watch is the chronograph device, right?
Yes. You know what was the most difficult piece to realize into this watch?
Tell me.
It was the dial itself, with the number, because it's made of a special material that we call neurolite.
Right.
And neurolite, for the first time, it has been mixed in 2 different colors. You have the white in the back,
Right.
and you have in the center the number itself, which is in black. And so they have to make the first part and then to carve it and then to apply black neurolite inside it. Why did we do that? To have this perfect finish that gives a beautiful effect, like diamond polished.
That's really cool.
To this dial.
Fantastic.
It's the hero of the watch, so we wanted to have it at the highest possible level.
Well, you certainly have achieved that, sir. Jean-Marie, let's go from the chronograph, the Memoris, which is using the seconds as a precision device, to a watch called the Tempograph, which uses the seconds more as an act of artistic provocation, I like to say. Tell me a little bit about that watch.
The purpose of the Tempograph is to create art, mechanical art, and in a way which evokes poetry.
Yes.
Because when you see this retrograding system measuring 20 seconds and going back, it's like breathing deeply, you know. It makes you really feel good. I used to wear this watch, and I'm not doing some marketing speech now. It's really what I felt when I had it. When I got a bit stressed, I used to stop, look at my watch, say, okay, now take your time, think well, do the right things.
I love the signature language that you have for your watches, where you have the integration of the movement and the time telling basically on the front of the watch at different levels. And here it's really cool to see this balance wheel beating away at 11 o'clock. Then you've got like time on a subdial at, I guess, you know, around 5 o'clock. Then you've got this huge seconds hand that's jumping back to the start every 20 seconds. You've got an amazing chronograph seconds counter that's also subdivided into 20-second segments as well. But then you can see the entire rack mechanism that's jumping back and empowering this hand to jump back every 20 seconds. And that's really cool too, from the perspective of a dial side animation.
Yeah, you really have like a mini factory on your wrist, and the visual effect which creates the poetry, the mystery, the magic.
And it's actually really like engaging. Like I imagine if you were the owner of this watch, you'd spend all day just staring at your timepiece, waiting for them to intersect.